Greetings, Earthlings. In this video, I want to talk about bulletproofing your body. Now, this is going to be a pretty large topic, so it's really almost impossible to cover it in just one video. So I'm going to try to give you guys some interesting ideas that I think might open up a few concepts for you guys. So I don't want to rehash things that are obvious. What I'm going to talk about today was even obvious to me to some extent, but then it became obvious to a greater extent later. So let me tell you guys what I mean. So I want to thank, there's this great book by Stephen Lowe called Overcoming Gravity, especially if you guys are into gymnastics or calisthenics. It really helped me. So here's what I used to know. For example, let's say you're doing a pushing movement, you might want to do a pulling movement. So if I'm doing pull-ups, then okay, that's pulling, so that's kind of like back, biceps. So maybe I want to do push-ups, which is like triceps, chest, so you get your complementary muscle groups working. And that's a good first level, but you can really get a lot more fine-tuned than that, and that's what I want to mention in this video, that you want to be working every plane of motion in every direction. So we're going to work all planes in all directions. So let's say you're doing the bench press, right, or push-ups. That's not just a pushing movement. So my original idea was just like, okay, balance pushing with pulling. And that's what a lot of people already know. But you want to do it for every plane. So the pull-up is a vertical pulling motion, whereas the push-up is a horizontal pushing motion. So if I'm doing the bench press or push-up, which is a horizontal pushing movement, I want to be doing a horizontal pulling movement, which is a row, or whatever exercise would work that. Same thing if I'm doing pull-ups. What's the reverse of that is doing some sort of shoulder press. It could be handstands, it could be whatever. Let's say I'm doing front squats. Now front squats are going to work your quads. So maybe there are many ways. By the way, it's not like one way we could balance these out, but that's working your quads a lot. And so you might want to complement that with deadlifts or glute-ham raises or hip thrusts, which work the posterior chain. So the quads are up right in front, and the deadlifts, the hip thrusts, all that stuff's going to work your butt, your hamstrings, the lower back, the stuff more in the back. And together, you're going to have a bulletproof body. Here's what's not a bulletproof body. If you have one muscle that's stronger, that's an injury waiting to happen. Or rather, if it's way, way stronger. There's some muscles that are naturally going to be stronger. So this goes for like wrists as well. So a lot of people have much stronger wrist flexion than extension. So everything we're doing like tends to be this way, or like let's say rather curls, so you're working this part, but if you're not doing anything for the extensors, you're going to have an imbalance. So like, for example, let's say you're doing a lot of push-ups, a nice thing to throw in, and maybe in a baby progression, is to do something where you're working your wrists. Let's say this is the ground, you're going to put your wrist down and do something like that. But maybe on your knees, you're not quite going to do a full push-up to start, and so you're working this back part. So the idea is if you're working the front, you're going to be working the back. So here's the thing. If you're someone that doesn't work out a lot, you're probably not going to have serious imbalances because, well, you might have, but you're just going to be weak all over. But the more advanced you get, the more you get into working out, since you started to really elevate some muscles and now like you're getting pretty advanced, chances are something's falling behind. So if you start improving, it's not being a generalist, which is a theme I have in this series, and having variety. It's not like an optional, like nice to have. It's really a must if you don't want to get injured. So a lot of times people have, let's say, shoulder problems. If you're doing too much bench press, you have internal rotation. They'll say, "Oh, my shoulder hurts." Well, because oftentimes they're not doing anything for external rotation. So nature will punish you if you have an imbalance. So that's what I want to get across. Here is, not just for the girls, especially for the ladies, but for a lot of folks, I'd say if I had to pick what's for people that don't really exercise that much, but maybe kind of do a little bit, what's like the number one thing? Well, maybe it's not the number one, but a really big one I want to emphasize is the plank. There's this constant emphasis on like strengthen your core, do the plank, side plank, whatever. So if you think about that, when you're doing a plank, you're working your abs, your stomach. But what's the opposite of that almost nobody does unless they're really like, seriously into fitness, is the reverse plank. So instead of being in a push-up position, let's say this is the ground, instead of being in a plank position, whether your elbows, whatever, you go reverse. And now that's going to work your back, your butt, your hamstrings, basically the posterior chain. And together you're going to create this strong girdle that's going to prevent you from getting injured. So, next time you see all these people doing planks at the gym, just take a notice. Are they also doing reverse planks? If they're just doing like almost exclusively planks, they're going to have overdeveloped abs and a weak lower back. So, and a posterior chain. So just keep in mind, this is for everything. And this is not just vertical and horizontal, it's for any plane of motion. So let's say I'm doing some sort of raises this way. I want to be doing something going down the other way. It's, if I'm rotating my arms this way, I want to go the other way as well. It's kind of common sense, but the part that's not common sense is that you really have to get very detailed with it. So like I said, my original understanding was just if you do some sort of pulling, any sort of pushing will do. It's a good start, don't get me wrong, you're halfway there. But you want to do for like every plane of motion. So if you're doing vertical pulling, you want to do vertical pushing, and horizontal, like sideways. So I'll leave it at that. It's just kind of a simple idea. So make sure you're balancing out your exercises. A few folks to just recommend. Eero Portal is really big on being a generalist, and I really recommend you guys check out his work. He has plenty of stuff, so check his stuff out. Eero, whose channel is VAHVA Fitness, has a lot of really cool animal walks, and he does a lot of weird exercises, and some people think that's just for like showing off or something, but actually it helps to create a bulletproof body because you're training all these weird angles you don't normally get, like your your obliques or your rotation muscles. So for example, if everybody's just doing crunches, how often are they twisting, right? So a lot of athletes, if you're like a baseball player, tennis player, you're doing a lot of twisting, and so you're working things that normal people don't work. So, by the way, I'll make a video on this in the future, but a great thing is just get into a nice wide stance, like really wide stance, like sort of horse squat stance, and just twist your pelvis really fast back and forth, and you will feel your core section light up. You can even do that in the water if you want to go for like, really take it up a notch, and I might do a video, so check that out. But that's just an example. Make sure you're working all your planes of motion. If you're someone that's just into like a minimalist system and just doing like the 3 major lifts, like squat, bench press, deadlift, or whatever it is you're doing, if you have a little home routine, let me say this. It's great for starters. If you are not active, anything is better than not being active. But once you start making progress, then you're going to have to add a little bit of complexity and make sure you have balance in your workout. So if you're doing push-ups at home, right, you're going to have to start doing some sort of rows or pull-ups, something to work the reverse muscles. And I'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, put them in the description. Put them in the comments. All right, I'll see you guys.